Hello, how are you? It's been a while. Let's play some Saturn.
Sega Saturn is the newest and most indulgent taste temptation from Sega, delivering crystal clear digital video and rich, creamy 3D graphics.
Yeah, the first MiSTer Saturn core of 2023 dropped a few days ago, and it's a cracker! So I spent some time testing it out, seeing what sorts of improvements we've got, what's working and what's not. Also worth noting is that alongside the new core, you'll currently also need to install the latest unstable MiSTer binary. Don't do what I did and spend a whole day trying to send it over FTP, at least using FileZilla. That just didn't work. I got a black screen and I wasted a ton of time. No, just pop the SD card into your computer and copy it over manually, and then it should work. Right, with that out of the way, let's take a look at this bad boy. Obviously it's still a work in progress, but there's been a noticeable change almost across the board in speed and overall feel of the games. It's hard to quantify, but they sometimes feel more solid. Yeah, we've also now got support for RAM carts, which is amazing to see. So I've got a good record here of more than 200 titles tested with each core since summer last year. This enables me to track the progress with each release, and it's very interesting. Oh yes. First off then, let's take a look at those games which previously didn't boot at all. Unsurprisingly, there's not much to report here. Games like Astal, Loaded and Huli Rula are still DOA. But one I found that booted for the first time with this release is Japanese title Assault Suit Lenos 2, Yes, which is playable, albeit without sound. Nice. This didn't boot at all with previous releases and now puts on a decent show, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Conversely, there were always a lot of games that would boot but not reach the main menu. Things like Daytona Championship Edition, Decathlete and Die Hard Trilogy, Hexen and the Mega Man X's, Panzer Dragoon 2, Virtua Cop and X-Men Children of the Atom. These games are unfortunately still not performing any better, but a few that buck this trend are Baseball Game Bottom of the Ninth, which now loads to the menu but will get stuck in a loop before the game starts. Buster Move 3 is fully playable. Most sound is working, but there are still some glitches. Robo Pit boots and plays, albeit with heavy glitching. Theme Park now works great and plays perfectly. If you needed another system on MiSTer to play Bullfrog's fantastically fun theme park builder, well, now you do, on Saturn. You can also enjoy Japanese fighter Waku Waku 7, now working and playing great. For the most part, some glitches, but it makes use of the new 1MB DRAM cart option. Wow, wow, wow. It really is nice to see some of these not only playable, but running really, really nicely as well. Now here's some titles that previously would get into the game, but were still unplayable for one reason or another. This is still the case for titles such as Creature Shock, F1 Challenge, Frank Thomas Baseball, Primal Rage and Sega Touring Car. But there have been massive improvements for centre ring boxing with improved graphics and speed, although it will still crash in the game. Don Pachi, still a bit slow but works. Double Switch had really rubbish video up until this release, but it's almost perfect now, although the lack of sound impacts gameplay massively. Madden 97 now crashes in the game rather than at the menu, so that's progress. Need for Speed is faster and playable until it crashes. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 gets to the game but is hella slow. There's definitely some timing issues there. WWF WrestleMania again is faster but will still likely crash. Following that, these are standout titles that were previously unplayable, but you can now get into the game and see running, in most cases really quite well here on MiSTer. Games such as Alone in the Dark, Battle Stations, Galaxy Fight, High Octane, which looked rubbish, quite frankly. There was a massive issue with the graphics, but they're much better here. It's vastly improved. You can get into a game of Iron Man and XO, which is playing really, really well. Sega Ages Outrun is working, but just make sure you're using the Japanese Revision A version. That was the only one I could get to actually play and not crash at the intro. True Pinball, graphically it's much better, although there are interlacing issues, but otherwise pretty playable. Japanese Adventure Police Noughts is also working really well on this version of the core, at least for the time I spent with it. I know there's some fans out there for this, so if you're one of those, it's worth taking a look. And then there's improvements to already playable games. None of these are working 100%, but the progress is impressive nonetheless. Blazing Dragons, point and click adventure, which is quite fun. The sound isn't working well, but turn the text on and you could easily spend some time with this. Bug 2 used to crash, but is working okay now. PGA Tour 97, it never used to get into the game, but it does, although it does seem to crash after a little while. And we can now enjoy better sound and stability with WWF in your house, although I still found that it would freeze during the game. So that's the good, but as with most in progress projects, there are now some titles that don't run great, or at all. It's no longer possible, for instance, to play some previously semi-working titles like Virtua Fighter 2, Sega Rally, Burning Rangers or Daytona USA, at least with this version of the core. Of course, you can always keep older releases around, so you can have a go on these if you want to. All this may be dependent on your own personal MiSTer setup. I'm running these with one stick of SD RAM, so those with another board of that will likely enjoy better compatibility. It's also possible that even just the type of RAM or other components connected as part of your MiSTer setup could play a part at this stage. So I guess the big takeaway here is that your mileage may vary. There are still quite a lot of games I haven't had time to retest yet, but I wanted to start with those that were previously found to be unplayable as a good baseline to see what progress has been made. Of course, massive shout out to SRG320 for working on this, and I of course wish him well. Please support him on Patreon if you can. That's it for today. Subscribe, please. I'm done.